From the very first second this clip surfaced, timelines lit up like fire. Fans who thought they had seen every kind of drama on Love and hip-hop were suddenly frozen, replaying the same jaw-dropping moment over and over. It wasn't shade slipped into a confessional. It wasn't quiet whispers behind the scenes. This was raw, unfiltered, and caught on camera. Yandy leaned forward, her voice sharp, her eyes burning, and the words that spilled out weren't just accusations. They were revelations that made the room itself feel colder. Across from her, Spice, normally the one with a quick clapback, sat in stunned silence, her wide eyes betraying just how shaken she was by what she had just heard. The tension in that room was thick enough to slice through. And when Yandy dropped, the kind of truth that nobody expected to come out on screen, the silence that followed was deafening. Betrayal, secrets, and bonds that once seemed unbreakable suddenly felt fragile, ready to shatter with the weight of a single sentence. Fans rushed online, demanding answers, debating loyalties, and asking the same question again and again. How could this friendship crumble so quickly? And what happens when secrets meant for private ears become the world's entertainment? The night began with what was supposed to be a calm sit-down, the kind of scene where old friends clear the air, talk through their differences, and move forward with a handshake and a smile. But anyone who has watched this franchise for long knows that things rarely play out that smoothly. The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and the tension in the room was already thick before a single word was spoken. Spice was seated, comfortably, her usual confidence radiating, but even she seemed uneasy as she glanced from Yandy to Rashida, sensing that something heavy was about to unfold. The energy wasn't playful. It wasn't staged laughter. It was sharp and brittle like glass ready to crack at the smallest touch. Yandy took the first step, her voice low at first, almost hesitant, but heavy with something she could no longer hold inside. She spoke of late nights when she had leaned on Rashida as a friend, sharing private worries about her family, about her marriage, about the pressures that came with being both a mother and a businesswoman under constant public scrutiny. She reminded Rashida and everyone else in earshot that those moments weren't meant for the cameras. They weren't meant to be content for blogs or podcasts. Those were supposed to be safe confessions, the kind that sisters guard and protect. But somehow, little pieces of those conversations had begun surfacing in places they were never meant to be. The way Yandy described it was heartbreaking. She said she would wake up one morning, scroll through her feed, and find a blog post or podcast segment repeating words that sounded all too familiar, words she had once whispered in tears now twisted into sound bites for entertainment. Spice shifted uncomfortably, glancing away because she knew that feeling. She had lived through betrayal before, and watching Yandy choke on her own disappointment was almost too much for her to bear. The tension only grew as Yandy pressed on. She explained that she had ignored it at first, brushing it off as coincidence, but over time, the pattern became undeniable. Each time she confided in Rashida, within weeks, something eerily similar would surface online, and while no one pointed directly at Rashida, Yandy couldn't shake the suspicion. The friendship that had once felt like a safe harbor now felt like dangerous waters. Spice, usually quick to jump in with her own opinions, sat frozen, her wide eyes locked on Yandy as if silently asking, "Are you really saying this on camera?" And then came the breaking point. Yandy leaned forward, her voice cracking just slightly, but her words firm. She said betrayal doesn't always come in the form of a stranger or an enemy. Sometimes it comes from the very person you trusted most. Her tone wasn't fiery. It wasn't even loud. It was heavy, soaked with a sadness that pierced the entire room. Spice gasped softly, covering her mouth with her hand, realizing this wasn't just another round of shade. This was a wound being torn open right in front of her. What made it worse was the way Yandy emphasized that she had always tried to protect Rashida. She claimed she never dragged her on camera, never sat in an interview dropping hints about her life, never betrayed her confidence even when she could have. "I kept it cute," she said, shaking her head. "I kept it respectful. But I didn't get that back." The disappointment in her voice sent chills down the room. Spice tried to interject gently, suggesting maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe someone else had twisted the information. Maybe Rashida didn't mean for it to spread. But Yandy wasn't having it. Her eyes burned as she replied, "A misunderstanding doesn't happen when you go on podcasts, when you do interviews, when you drop little hints that only you would know. That's not a mistake, Spice. That's a choice." The words hung in the air, thick and undeniable. Spice shifted in her seat, unsure whether to defend Rashida or stay silent. The silence that followed was almost louder than the words themselves. The kind of silence that presses against your chest until you can barely breathe. Fans watching later would describe Spice's expression as priceless. Her shock said everything, her silence louder than any reaction she could have given. Backstage, whispers spread quickly. Some crew members exchanged glances, muttering under their breath that Rashida had left too quickly after Spice's concert earlier that week, almost as if she was avoiding confrontation. Others swore they saw Kirk urging her to leave the moment Yandy arrived, as though he knew trouble was brewing. The producers, of course, let the cameras roll, knowing this kind of raw emotion was gold. But even they looked uneasy as they realized how deep this wound really went. Social media wasted no time. Within hours of the clip leaking, fan pages were ablaze. Some defended Rashida, insisting she had every right to share her perspective if she felt wronged. Others blasted her for breaking what they called the sister code, arguing that no matter what, private conversations between friends should never become public gossip. Hashtags like Team Yandy and Team Rashida began trending, dividing fans who had once celebrated their friendship into opposing camps. Blogs ran headlines like "Friendship implodes on camera" and "Betrayal at the heart of love and hip-hop Atlanta." Reaction channels dissected every word, replaying the clip of Spice's stunned face over and over, while commenters debated whether Yandy was being genuine or whether she was creating a storyline to stay relevant. But those who knew the history insisted this was no scripted drama. This was pain, raw and unfiltered. The cast itself was shaken. Some admitted privately that they had noticed cracks between Yandy and Rashida long before this scene, but no one expected it to explode like this. One insider revealed that Rashida had been venting about feeling unsupported by Yandy, hinting that she carried secrets that could shift how fans saw her. And now, with Yandy's accusations out in the open, it seemed the powder keg had finally ignited. And then came the twist that turned whispers into fire. As Yandy's voice trembled with emotion, she dropped a name no one expected to hear in this context. Jasmine. The mention sent Spice reeling, her eyes widening, her mouth parting in disbelief. Jasmine's history with Kirk and Rashida had been one of the show's most painful storylines, and the idea that Rashida was allegedly closer to Jasmine than anyone realized was almost unthinkable. Spice shook her head, muttering she couldn't believe it. But Yandy insisted it was real, telling her to watch closely, connect the dots, and see the truth for herself. Fans exploded online, pulling up old photos, screenshots, and vacation posts, suddenly analyzing every smile and every group shot for signs of a hidden connection. The theory that Rashida had been quietly maintaining ties with Jasmine sent shockwaves across the fandom. For many, it wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about a hidden truth that could shatter everything fans thought they knew. Rashida, of course, denied it when whispers reached her, brushing it off as lies meant to tear her down. But the damage had already been done. Spice, caught in the middle, struggled to process it all. She had come into that sit-down expecting shade, maybe a few heated words. But what she got was a revelation that shifted the ground beneath her feet. She found herself questioning everything, her loyalty, her own friendships, and whether anyone in this industry could truly be trusted. The cameras zoomed in on her face, capturing the disbelief in her eyes, the shock in her silence, and fans later said her expression summed up exactly how they felt watching it all unfold. What made it all the more intense was that this wasn't delivered like a storyline. Yandy's pain felt too raw, too real to be manufactured. Spice's silence spoke volumes, showing that even she, a veteran of countless on-screen feuds, was floored by what she was hearing. The betrayal was no longer whispers behind the scenes. It was front and center, on camera, for the world to see. And in that moment, a friendship that once seemed unshakable cracked under the weight of secrets, leaving everyone wondering if it could ever be repaired. The fallout from Yandy's explosive revelation didn't end when the cameras cut. In fact, that was only the beginning. Once word spread about what had been said, the entire cast found themselves buzzing, whispering behind closed doors, and sending cryptic posts online. The producers might have thought they could contain the drama to a single scene, but this was the kind of moment that couldn't be boxed in. The energy shifted across every interaction, every gathering, every group chat. Suddenly, no one trusted anyone, and even the closest friendships felt shaky. Yandy herself was torn between exhaustion and defiance. On one hand, she felt drained after pouring out years of bottled-up hurt. But on the other, she was proud that she finally spoke her truth, even if it meant burning bridges. She confided to a close friend later that night, "I carried this for too long. I stayed quiet to protect her, to protect the image of our bond, but she never gave me the same protection. I can't stay silent when I know she's the one feeding my pain to the public." Her voice, though steady, cracked at the edges, and that's when her friend realized just how deep the betrayal ran. Spice, still reeling from being caught in the middle, couldn't shake the memory of that moment. She replayed it in her mind over and over again. The way Yandy's eyes glistened, the tremble in her voice, and the shock that ran through her body when Jasmine's name was dropped. For Spice, it wasn't just gossip. It was a wound cut wide open, and she knew the world was about to devour it. She tried to stay neutral, but fans were quick to point out that her silence during the confrontation spoke volumes. "Spice knew it was true," one fan tweeted. "You can see it in her face." Others argued that Spice was simply stunned, not siding with anyone, but the debate kept her name trending alongside Yandy and Rashida. Meanwhile, Rashida couldn't escape the whispers. Even though she had left the room before Yandy's accusations gained full steam, the story followed her like a shadow. At home, Kirk tried to calm her down, telling her that silence was the best response, but Rashida wasn't convinced. She felt cornered, angry, and betrayed herself. "She's trying to paint me like I'm fake," Rashida muttered as she paced back and forth in her living room. "After everything I've done to support her, this is what I get? Nah, I'm not." Letting her have the last word, her voice shook, not with sadness, but with fury. Kirk, though used to handling the weight of public scrutiny, could see that this feud had touched a nerve deeper than most. Online, the story snowballed at lightning speed. Blogs were quick to spin headlines like, "Yandy exposes Rashida's secrets," and "Friendship destroyed on camera." Fan accounts posted side-by-side clips of Yandy and Rashida's past moments together, laughing and hugging, contrasted against the new footage of Yandy calling her out. The betrayal narrative practically wrote itself, and the public latched onto it with relentless energy. Hashtags like Yax Team Yandy and Yax Team Rashida flooded social media, and every comment section became a battleground where fans defended their chosen side with fiery passion. What made the situation even more complicated was the resurfacing of old rumors. Some fans pulled up clips from past seasons, moments where Rashida had made subtle comments that suddenly seemed sharper in hindsight. One fan account even dug up an old interview where Rashida vaguely hinted at friends who weren't as loyal as they seemed. "Was she talking about Yandy even back then?" the caption read, sparking even more debate. The internet once again proved its ability to turn every scrap of content into ammunition for speculation. Spice, trying to manage her own role in the chaos, reached out privately to both women. She called Yandy first, her tone soft, trying to calm her down. "Sis, you know this is going to get bigger than you ever imagined, right?" she said gently. People are already twisting it, making it bigger than what it was. You gotta think about the long game. Is it worth it? But Yandy's resolve was firm. It's already out there, she replied. I can't put the genie back in the bottle. The truth had to come out, Spice. I just wish she never made me do this. When Spice spoke to Rashida later, the energy was completely different. Rashida's voice was sharp, her tone defensive. She's making me look like I'm some snake, like I can't be trusted. But she's not telling the full story. I was dealing with my own pain, my own struggles, and I vented. I didn't mean for it to get out there the way it did. But I'm not taking the blame like I was out here plotting against her. Spice listened quietly, realizing that both women felt betrayed in their own way, and that reconciliation seemed impossible. The crew, caught in the middle, began whispering about how to handle the footage. Some argued it should be cut down, softened, maybe even scrapped to avoid legal trouble. But others knew this was the kind of raw, explosive drama that drew viewers in droves. This is ratings gold, one producer muttered. But it's dangerous. We've never seen a fallout like this. The decision hung heavy in the air, but the truth was, the footage was already leaking through unofficial channels. The public had seen enough to know this wasn't a typical storyline. It was real pain bleeding out on camera. What truly set the fandom ablaze, though, was the Jasmine angle. The mere mention of her name was enough to crack open old wounds and reignite, a storm that many thought had long settled. Fans began connecting dots that may not have even been there, pulling up photos, videos, and even location tags to build a narrative of Rashida's supposed closeness with Jasmine. Look at this vacation pic, one fan wrote, circling background. Details. You telling me they weren't together? Another fan countered, saying it was all coincidence, but the seed of doubt had already taken root. The storyline shifted from simple betrayal to a much deeper conspiracy, and that made it even juicier for viewers hungry for drama. Yandy, for her part, didn't back down. She doubled down in her confessionals, her eyes glistening as she said, I tried to protect her image. I tried to keep it between us. But how do you stay silent when your own sister turns your pain into her storyline? Her words were heavy, her tone emotional, and fans couldn't help but feel the authenticity. Even those who sided with Rashida admitted that Yandy's pain felt real. Rashida, though, wasn't going to sit quietly forever. After days of silence, she finally took to social media, posting a carefully crafted message. Sometimes people project their insecurities onto you, she wrote. But I've always been solid, and I'll continue to be solid no matter who tries to tear me down. The post, while polished, dripped with defiance, and fans immediately dissected every word. Was she denying Yandy's claims outright, or was she subtly admitting she had slipped up? The ambiguity only fueled more debate. Spice, stuck in the eye of the storm, became the unexpected voice of reason. She admitted in her own post that she was shaken by what she heard, but urged both women to remember the years of sisterhood they had built. Her words were sincere, but many fans doubted whether peace was even possible after the damage that had been done. The situation spiraled further when reaction videos began gaining traction. Influencers broke down the confrontation frame by frame, analyzing body language, tone, and even background whispers picked up by the microphones. One viral video claimed you could see Rashida's guilt in the way she avoided eye contact whenever Jasmine's name was mentioned. Another argued that Yandy's tears proved she wasn't fabricating her claims. The internet court was in session, and everyone had an opinion. As the days turned into weeks, the storyline only grew. The division among fans became sharper. The whispers among the cast became louder, and the tension behind the scenes became unbearable. The betrayal had gone from a single confrontation to a ripple effect shaking the entire foundation of their circle. The once tight bond of friendship was now fractured, and the scars left behind were impossible to ignore. And with each passing day, the storm only grew darker. leaving everyone to wonder what would happen when Yandy and Rashida finally crossed paths again. The days following the confrontation became a storm that nobody could outrun. Even though the cameras had captured the moment in chilling detail, the real drama unfolded in the spaces between. Social media posts, late-night phone calls, and whispers that spread faster than wildfire. Fans weren't just watching anymore. They were investigating, piecing together timelines, analyzing body language, and pulling receipts from years back. It felt less like a reality show and more like a public trial, with Yandy and Rashida standing on opposite sides of the courtroom while Spice remained the unwilling witness caught in the middle. Yandy tried to keep her composure, presenting herself online as strong, calm, and focused on her family. She posted polished photos, her kids smiling beside her, captions full of empowerment and resilience. But behind the gloss, those close to her said she was shaken. She confided to a friend, "I don't regret speaking up, but I regret how deep it cut. It feels like everyone's dissecting my pain, and I don't know how to take it back." Her words reflected the heavy toll the confrontation was taking. She wanted the world to see strength, but inside, she felt exposed, vulnerable, and exhausted. Rashida, meanwhile, doubled down on her defiance. She made appearances at events, flashing bright smiles for the cameras, acting as though the storm didn't exist. When asked directly about Yandy's accusations, she brushed them off with a wave of her hand and a rehearsed laugh. "People are always going to talk," she said coolly. "That doesn't mean it's true." But those who knew her best said the mask was slipping. Kirk noticed her pacing late at night, scrolling endlessly through comments, muttering under her breath about betrayal and lies. "She thinks she won," Rashida whispered once, referring to Yandy, "but she doesn't know the whole story." And then came the twist no one saw coming. An anonymous account posted blurry screenshots, allegedly from a private group chat, involving several cast members. In the messages, someone hinted at bringing down the empire, and Rashida's name was tagged more than once. The screenshots were messy, unverified, and impossible to prove, but that didn't stop fans from running with them. Suddenly, speculation swirled that Rashida wasn't acting alone, that she might have allies quietly supporting her against Yandy. The idea of a secret alliance set the internet ablaze. Some fans pointed fingers at castmates who had been unusually quiet, while others dismissed it as a planted distraction. Still, the whispers grew louder and the division deeper. Spice, struggling to manage the chaos, began to feel the weight of being the middle ground. Her silence in that fateful room had already been replayed millions of times. Her shocked face turned into memes, GIFs, and reaction videos. Spice knew, fans declared, using her expression as proof of guilt, innocence, or complicity depending on which side they were on. Spice herself tried to explain in a live session that she had been caught off guard, that she was just listening, but her words only fueled more debate. "She's covering up," some fans argued. "She's scared of picking a side." The constant speculation left Spice drained, feeling like she was drowning in a drama she never asked to be part of. The producers couldn't ignore the momentum. While some staff whispered about cutting the footage to protect the cast, others pushed for letting it air in full, knowing the ratings would skyrocket. "This could be the biggest moment in franchise history," one producer said in a leaked audio clip. "People aren't just watching, they're obsessed." But another producer countered, "We're playing with fire. This isn't just entertainment anymore. This is personal. If we push too far, someone's life outside the show could really crumble." The debate highlighted the blurred line between reality television and real life, a line that had already been crossed too many times. As the speculation raged on, Yandy's children were pulled into the storm. Trolls began tagging them in cruel comments, throwing around rumors that had nothing to do with them. The moment Yandy saw her kids being dragged, her patience cracked. "It's one thing to come for me," she told a confidant, tears streaking down her face. "But don't you dare involve my babies. That's unforgivable." Her protective instincts turned her frustration into fury, and those close to her said she was ready to escalate if Rashida didn't back down. Rashida, on the other hand, was facing her own cracks. Her brand deals, long tied to her image as a strong, family-first businesswoman, began to waver. One sponsor allegedly sent a nervous email saying they needed reassurance the drama wouldn't tarnish their partnership. "They think I'm the villain now," Rashida admitted bitterly. "They don't know the pressure I was under when I said those things. Nobody cares about context. They just care about clicks." Her frustration grew into resentment, and she vowed not to let Yandy control the narrative. The fan reaction only intensified when Jasmine herself was spotted liking a cryptic post about truth always coming to light. The comment section exploded, with fans claiming this was proof that Yandy's accusations had merit. Jasmine didn't say a word publicly, but her single like was enough to reignite the firestorm. Suddenly, every move she made was scrutinized, every photo dissected, as though she held the missing piece to the puzzle. Rashida, when confronted with this new wave of speculation, lashed out. "She's not even part of this anymore," she snapped in an off-camera moment. "But of course people want to drag her name back in. They'll do anything for a headline." Her denial, however, wasn't enough to calm the storm. The tension reached a boiling point when the cast gathered again for a group event. The producers had hoped to film a lighthearted scene, something fun to balance out the drama, but the energy in the room was unbearable. The moment Yandy and Rashida locked eyes, the air grew heavy. Spice tried to smile, tried to lighten the mood, but everyone could sense that another explosion was coming. Yandy's expression was steely, Rashida's guarded, and Kirk hovered, close by, ready to intervene if things got out of hand. The other cast members sat quietly, waiting, their eyes darting between the two women as though bracing for impact. Yandy broke the silence first, her voice calm but laced with venom. "So, we're really pretending nothing happened?" she asked, her eyes never leaving Rashida's. Rashida smirked, her arms crossed. "You said what you said. I said what I said. The fans can decide." The dismissiveness in her tone sent Yandy into a rage. She leaned forward, her voice rising. "You don't get to play innocent when you know exactly what you did. You took my pain and turned it into your storyline. That's betrayal, Rashida. Plain and simple." The room froze as Rashida fired back. "And you don't get to act like you're perfect, Yandy. You've had your moments. You've said things about me too. Don't play the victim now just because it's convenient." The back and forth drew gasps from the other cast members, and Spice covered her face with her hands, whispering, "Lord, not again." The argument escalated quickly, voices overlapping, hands gesturing wildly until producers were forced to step in. "Cut! Cut!" one shouted, but the cameras kept rolling, capturing every fiery second. Outside the set, fans were already buzzing about what might have gone down. Leaks hinted at another showdown, and the internet braced for the footage. Once again, the lines blurred between reality and spectacle, leaving everyone hooked, waiting for the next twist. What started as a confrontation had now spiraled into an all-out war, and no one could predict how far it would go, or what secrets might still come to light. The storm that had erupted between Yandy and Rashida refused to die down, no matter how hard anyone tried to move on. What began as a single confrontation had spiraled into a full-blown saga that consumed the cast, divided the fans, and left Spice trapped in the middle of chaos she never asked for. Everywhere you looked, the fallout was visible. Social media ablaze with theories, cast members whispering in corners, and producers scrambling to balance the promise of ratings with the danger of irreparable damage. Yandy, though visibly shaken, carried herself like someone unwilling to fold. She posted cryptic captions about loyalty, trust, and betrayal, each one dissected by fans who searched for hidden meanings. "I'd rather lose fake friends than lose myself," she wrote under one post, and the comment section erupted. Supporters, flooded in with heart emojis and words of encouragement, while critics accused her of dragging the drama out for sympathy. Behind the camera, however, her close circle revealed that she was exhausted. "She's tired of fighting," one friend admitted. But at the same time, she knows stepping back now would make it look like Rashida won. Rashida, for her part, tried to keep up a flawless front. She posted photos with Kirk, laughing, dining out, playing the role of the unbothered wife and businesswoman. But cracks showed in the quiet moments. Insiders whispered that she was furious about the Jasmine rumors resurfacing, snapping at Kirk whenever fans brought the topic into their mentions. "They're trying to rewrite history," she vented, pacing back and forth. "I'm not going to let them destroy everything I built." Rashida's anger simmered just below the surface, a mix of pride and fear, and it fueled her refusal to apologize or step back. Spice found herself drowning in the noise. She had wanted to be a listener, a neutral voice, but her silence had turned her into an unwilling symbol of the feud. Memes of her stunned reaction circulated daily, fan pages calling her the look that said it all. She confessed in one late-night live session that she wished the whole situation had stayed off camera. "Some things ain't for the world," she said quietly, her usual fiery tone dimmed. "Sometimes private pain should stay private." But even her attempt to distance herself backfired. Some fans accused her of enabling the drama, while others begged her to spill what she really knew. The producers could no longer pretend this was business as usual. Meetings stretched into the night as executives debated what to do next. Airing the footage promised record-breaking ratings, but at what cost? "We're sitting on dynamite," one producer admitted. "If we show everything, we risk lawsuits, brand fallout, maybe even losing the cast. If we cut it, we risk losing the fans." It was a no-win situation, and everyone knew it. But the longer they waited, the more the leaks spread, and the less control they had. As weeks passed, the drama spilled further into real life. Brands tied to both women grew nervous, issuing quiet warnings about reputational risk. Friends were forced to pick sides, and the once tight-knit bond of the cast splintered into factions. Kirk stood firmly beside Rashida, but even his usual calm presence seemed shaky under the pressure. Mendices, though quieter than usual, let his loyalty show in subtle ways, supporting Yandy in posts and reminding fans to keep family sacred. But even he couldn't deny the weight pressing on them both. Fans, meanwhile, were relentless. They demanded receipts, dissected every word, and fueled the feud with their endless commentary. "Was Rashida wrong to talk?" one poll asked. "Was Yandy right to expose it?" another debated. The responses were split straight down the middle, and that division only made the storyline more powerful. No matter what side you were on, you couldn't look away. The climax came when Yandy and Rashida were once again forced into the same room for filming. Everyone braced for another explosion, but instead the energy was eerily calm. The women sat across from each other, their eyes locked, their voices low. There were no screaming matches this time, no theatrics, just two women weighed down by betrayal, pride, and exhaustion. "We can't take back what was said," Yandy admitted softly. "But I can't forget how it felt." Rashida replied with equal weight. "And I can't forget that you put it out there for the world." The silence that followed was heavier than any argument, a reminder that some wounds cut too deep to ever fully heal. As the cameras zoomed out, the reality set in. The friendship that had once seemed unbreakable was fractured, maybe forever. Spice sat quietly, her face unreadable, knowing that no matter what happened next, the damage had already been done. And while fans would debate, speculate, and pick sides for months to come, only Yandy and Rashida knew the true depth of what had been lost. And so the chapter closed, not with reconciliation, but with unresolved questions, lingering scars, and the haunting realization that some bonds, once broken, may never find their way back. The betrayal was no longer just a storyline. It had become part of their legacy, etched into the history of love and hip-hop for the world to remember, and now it's over to you, because this story is far from finished. Do you think Yandy was right to call out Rashida? Or did she cross the line by putting it all on camera? Was Spice's silence proof she agreed? Or was she just caught in shock like the rest of us? The fans are already split, and your voice matters in this conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know whose side you're on and what you think happens next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next twist.